Welcome to the Anonymous Andrew Podcast. Life and the choices we make. The choices other people make. This podcast explores all things as they relate to dating and romantic relationships. Why we ignore, or choose to ignore, or miss the red flags. Red flags like gaslighting, cheating, lying, narcissistic behavior, deception, and so much more. Join me each week as we continue my journey into the modern dating world with my weekend rants, anonymous guest dating stories, and experts who share their wisdom so we can better navigate the dating terrain. If you are new to the show or have been with me from the beginning, hold on tight for the Anonymous Andrew experience. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to, well, this is not a full show, full episode. I am popping on to make an announcement. The Anonymous Andrew podcast started over a year ago and changed, 14, 15 months ago, because my heart got broken by a woman who cheated, gaslit me, yada, yada. You know the whole story. And by the way, I just, as a footnote before I make the announcement, I have been hearing a lot about polyamory. A lot of podcasts are covering it now. And I gave some deep thought into this past relationship. And while she may have been doing things that were maybe in the adult entertainment industry, she was, and I remember distinctly that she said to me on a couple of occasions she wanted to break up because she was seeing somebody else. And at the time I was in denial. I said, no, you're not. You're not. You're just saying that just to get under my skin and yada, yada, yada. I believe she was telling me the truth. She was trying to tell me that she found someone else and she was dating somebody else. And that's the definition of polyamory. But here's the difference. In a polyamory relationship, both partners are supposed to agree to that. You sit down, you say, hey, let's open up this relationship. You know, we're still a couple, but you can go explore your sexuality in any form you want with anybody you want. And I can do the same, but we will always still be a couple, yada, yada. Listen to other podcasts, and the definition of polyamory has many various ideas to it, whatever. So I'm the more I do this podcast and the more I learn, I'm starting to think maybe that was really what was going on. She just didn't want, she did inform me, but she didn't sit down and say, this is what I would like. I would like to stay with you, but I'd like to see other people at the same time. I don't know whether I would have agreed, but she never, while she hinted or said to me, I'm seeing other people, and of course I didn't believe her, she should have said to me, but Andrew, I am seeing somebody else, and I am sleeping with this person, and therefore I want to be polyamory and have a discussion about it. And I may not have agreed. I might have said, well, that's not going to work for me because that's not my style. I am not knocking it. It is not for me, but it is for many people. It seems to be becoming the new thing today where couples are exploring polyamory. And to each their own. And you know my mantra, live and let live. But like I've always also said, you have to be honest with each other and communicate. So, okay, I needed to get that out because it just hit me today that I think that's what she was doing. Here comes the big announcement. Okay, you may have noticed, if you're a regular listener, that over the past several months, I have been bouncing back and forth. So, one week I may have a guest on about dating. He's an expert, she's an expert, she's a coach. And we talk about dating and romance and relationships. And then the following week, you're going to hear 3 or 4 episodes in a row about cults. Because along my journey, I discovered my interest in cults. I joined, well, as you might remember, I did a whole series on the Twin Flames, and that did extremely well. Brought in many listeners. And I do have it. I now have a team of people working with me, and several women who run Facebook groups or are in these Facebook groups have come to me and said, we have people that want to be on your show and they want to tell their story of the cult that they were in, how they got out, how their life is today. And then to take it even a step further, one of my cohorts, I'm going to leave all the names out for now, came to me and said she found the Human Trafficking support group on Facebook. And these people were suffering and trying to heal. And honestly, as you know, I'm very open and vulnerable. My heart started bleeding for these people. Many of these cults, a lot of these guests that I have on were born into the cults. They didn't have a choice. Their parents dragged them off to these organizational meetings. A lot of them were sexually abused. A lot of them were raped. A lot of them were forced to cut off their ties with their school friends, or they couldn't go to school. They had to be homeschooled. All of this. So, I'm still getting, I'm basically backed up in recordings. I have almost 15 recordings for the dating podcast. And then I have already lined up, 6 confirmed recordings for cult interviews. And I can't tell you how many inbox messages I have from people wanting to come on the show and share their story. And then I found another group on Facebook where it's a singles group. And I posted in there about people wanting to come on, anybody want to come on and share their dating story. And oh my God, in one day, I booked 3 people. So the bottom line here, it is time to start another podcast show. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Never in my wildest imagination or dreams would I have ever thunk that not only would the Anonymous Andrew podcast do well, but that I would have so much interest that I would need to start a second show, is basically. So I know I'm going to kick my butt 6 months down the road. Like, what was I thinking? But I have an overwhelming number of people literally lining up to be on the show. And I'm not boasting this. I'm not trying to be egotistical and say, look at me, I'm famous. That was stupid. But you get the point. For my regular audience who tunes in for the podcast on romance and dating, all of a sudden you're tuning in and you're hearing a cult, which you just might not be interested in. And I get that. And it's not fair to you. It's not fair to my guests that I've already recorded. So it's time to branch out. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I am making an official announcement that the Anonymous Andrew podcast is launching a second podcast show strictly for cults and human trafficking. And there are some names that we're bouncing around as to the name of the show. I'm already working on the graphic design. We're working on the music. There's a lot of work with, I have a team of 3 people working with me, and I will give you their names and their due and thank yous and kudos and all that. I just don't have anything in concrete yet, and I just don't want to put the cart before the horse. So stay tuned, folks. Very soon, maybe within the next couple of weeks, there will be a launch of a completely new Anonymous Andrew production. It still will be under my studio name, but I have a co-host. Her name is Melody. You may have heard her, and she is an expert, in my opinion, in cults. And there's another woman who is also, but she's a scout. Like, she scouts out Facebook and the internet to find me people and topics in human trafficking and cults. So all of this combined, put together, the Anonymous Andrew podcast is now branching out. It just blows my mind that I'm even saying this. Never again would I have thought this. So, okay, that's it. Just wanted to tell you about that. Keep tuned. And I get that if you're listening to the show for the romance and dating aspect and you have no interest in cults, that's why I'm splitting it up. So you can, for those who want to stay on the dating podcast, you don't have to listen to the cults, or the cult people don't have to listen to the dating part. Just makes sense, folks. It's as simple as that. Okay. Anonymous Andrew saying thank you, and keep tuned and watch social media, because it'll all be we'll be launching and promoting it on my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, yada yada. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're already in the process of putting this together. So stay tuned. Anonymous Andrew. Ciao.